Hi, everyone. My name is Elay Cohen, and I am the CEO of SalesHood. Really excited to be here today with the one and only Amy Pence from DISQO. She is an incredible enablement practitioner, and she's got a lot to share. Amy, say hey, say hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
This session today is all about helping organizations drive urgency with AI and specifically around embracing storytelling and discovery and then using AI role playing to help you achieve your sales effectiveness, your sales execution, and your efficiency goals, that much faster. So Amy and I have known each other for a long time. Amy is a phenomenal leader in the world of sales enablement. Like Amy was doing sales enablement before it was called sales enablement, and we've worked together multiple occasions over the years, and I've learned a lot from Amy. She's spoken several times at many of our conferences over the year. There are a ton of videos, and I encourage you to connect with Amy on LinkedIn. She is one to know, she's one to follow, and you'll see today how much knowledge and experience she has. And especially now when the world of sales enablement is changing and it's transforming, and how Gen AI is completely changing the game for us in sales enablement. And just super grateful for you to be here, Amy, and just so excited to hear from you. So, Amy is now the director of enablement at DISQO. And you want to just take a minute and say hello? Maybe tell us about DISQO for a second. Tell us about yourself and DISQO.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's so great to be here. It's been a while. I was telling Eli since we've really done a webinar, and I'm super excited about the topic. It is very relevant, I would imagine. Everyone agrees. And yeah, coming from sales enablement before, like you said, before it really was even acknowledged in Google Docs as a word, whether it was like a volunteer or voluntold, I was, stepping up to kind of lead through a lot of change. And I think anyone in sales enablement recognizes that's a big part of it. So kind of being that change agent, and then formally by title have been in sales enablement for over 10 years now. I can officially say that. All different types of roles in great organizations, and a ton of incredible is probably an understatement for the practitioners and community that I've grown to really get to know and learn from. That's what it's all about, right? Enabling for enablers as well. And DISQO is about measuring ad effective measurement. So I've been with the company just right around 6 months. And
Beautiful.
aside from an incredible fun name, I think it really does represent the spirit, DISQO. And it's a lot of fun. We're based here in Glendale, California, and just had a sales summit. We brought all our sales reps in, a lot of bowling, a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of workshopping, breaking out the Mr. Sketch markers and Post-its. It felt so good. So this is very timely, Eli. Thank you for the
Oh,
opportunity.
you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I think Amy, you've had an amazing career, Alteryx, Flowcast, and now DISQO. And DISQO is a rocket ship. So listen, today, everyone, here's what we're gonna do. Amy has some very timely and hot off the press experience with kind of Gen AI role playing, and specifically around storytelling and helping to up-level teams and how they engage their customers and prospects and kind of better, richer conversations. And the why here is to improve effectiveness, execution, efficiency, and really kind of it's about deals. How do we get our people to be able to be more conversation ready and drive urgency in deals? That's why I think storytelling is just, I love the focus here. And before we dig in, and so the flow today is going to be Amy's going to, tell us, all the great things she's been doing over the last few months from like kickoff until now. And she's been doing a lot. It's a lot of lessons learned. We're going to learn and hear kind of her lessons learned in rolling out kind of her Gen AI role playing with SalesHood over at DISQO. A lot of great lessons learned. We're all kind of rethinking enablement. We're all rethinking and trying to learn how AI prompts is kind of a key skill that we as enablers and other publishers need to be really. So we're gonna go deep, right? And Amy's got a ton to share. And then we're gonna kind of open up the hood, as they say, and gonna show you. We can't show you discos because that's confidential, and it's amazing. It's like that's the thing here, right? With Gen AI, it's just like when you're building these prompts, there's a lot of IP there, right? And there's a lot of like scenario-based IP and playbooks, and so we're gonna show everyone what what we did at SalesHood, we just rolled out our own AI role playing for our teams, and Amy's going to critique it and give us feedback. We're going to really see how this works and how easy to use, how fast that you can deploy it. And so that's what we're going to do today. Let me take a minute. For those of you that are less familiar with SalesHood, SalesHood is an AI-driven revenue enablement platform. We're all about helping companies activate content, and kind of the why for us is we're all about ramping readiness, personalized selling, and measuring impact. And right now, kind of AI role playing is hot, and it's really enabling sales enablement leaders, marketing leaders to provide adaptable, personalized, and just-in-time enablement to their teams. And so this is it. I hope everyone is getting ready for a great session. And so, Amy, I think we should just start with kind of your kickoff, because I think you roll out an amazing kickoff. So tell us about your kickoff, tell us about your theme, and tell us about some of the focus areas if you can.
Yeah, we all gathered together via Zoom in January. So the unfortunate devastation with the LA fires prevented us from getting together in person, hence why we did our summit just the past day and a half. And our theme was adapt, accelerate, and win. And it was our revenue kickoff, but also really kind of the theming for our entire organization from adapting and accelerating and winning from a category perspective. So, definitely wrapped up with kind of the bigger company focus. And we really wanted to help our reps get a fast, fresh start for the year. And storytelling was one of those components of our discovery playbook. And so the kickoff was really focused around going into driving urgency, investigating pain. So we've been doing a lot of work around MedPick as well, and selling wide and deep. So making sure, you're getting not just really, in with one persona, but across multiple personas, and then kind of all around the organization, because the world of advertising measurement is changing as well. And making sure we're qualifying for our fit. And from a solution standpoint, feasibility is a really big part of our kind of qualification and how we can make sure we provide a really effective solution for our customers. So that's really important. And then offering stories. So if you think about the first letter of all of those pieces I just shared, it's DISQO. So not playing on discovery would have been a really missed opportunity, in my opinion. So that's what we did. We had customers join us. It was since it was Zoom, we kind of opened it up. We had folks from across the organization join in. We heard from the market. We heard from our team, a lot of storytelling around our wins, our lessons. And we made the most of it over Zoom. It was great.
Wow. Okay. You covered a lot of ground there. I think a lot of really important sales execution challenges, it sounds like you were focused on. I think I wanna go a little deeper, I think, and congrats. It sounds like a great event. The intersection, you use discovery a bunch of times, the intersection between discovery and storytelling. Could you maybe just kind of expand on that a little? Because I think it's super interesting.
Yes, we took a look at, how to kind of maximize that experience for our potential buyers, our customers, and then also how can we help our team learn as much as they can in an efficient and effective manner. And what we, kind of our big bet, our hypothesis, if you will, was, okay, storytelling is going to help in multiple ways. Our ultimate goal was to create that I want that moment. And, it's a great way to educate. I mean, it is the, oldest form of kind of passing on communication, connecting as storytelling. And in the business context, really taking the, from before to after, and the challenge and the struggle, and then the resolution, and kind of getting to the point of, not just saying we can help, or, oh yes, we've done that before, but really having the social proof around it. And then also one of the points, and Elay, you've spoke about this before, is discovery can also help, or storytelling can help with combating discovery fatigue, right? Because a lot of times, especially when you get really excited about the potential to help, your tendency is to maybe just keep asking questions and keep asking questions because you're learning so much. And maybe the person who you're engaging with is so willing and, generous with offering all this information, but at some point you have to kind of stop and go, okay, are we aligned? Are they seem to be getting what we're able to do and our value props and, how we can help, but let's share a story and see if that is in fact the case. And because it's such a tangible way for people to put themselves in the shoes of the other person, it's a good way for you to go, okay, they're understanding what I'm saying. They're picking up, what I'm putting down, so to speak. They're connecting or they're not. So if I tell a story and the other person is like, I still don't get it, then maybe there's more discovery. So it's also a chance of like, age-old question, when have I done enough discovery?
Yeah. I love that. So, the story is the social proof, credibility, trust building. And then I love the discovery fatigue bit. And, but I think what you just said is so, like, you tell someone a story and they're not quite there, then, maybe they're not the right person, Amy, right? On the one hand, but on the other hand, take a step back. Well, I got to learn more about your business. I clearly don't understand your challenges because that story didn't map, and it gives you an opportunity to ask more questions
Yeah.
and go deeper.
It's almost like when you tell a joke and it falls flat.
Right. Okay. Salespeople don't want to tell bad story jokes.
No.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot. I like that one a lot. So storytelling became a priority for you at your kickoff. And so listen, everyone, we're going to get into the AI because you can imagine, the power of AI role playing and getting our salespeople to master the art of storytelling and then getting them to do it in the context of a role play where they can take questions, handle objections in real time is super, super interesting. So we're going to get there. But I think Amy ran an amazing workshop at kickoff, and you did it virtually, like
Yes.
crazy. And you got a lot of great feedback. You want to just tell us, how did you roll out a storytelling workshop virtually with your teams? What'd you do?
So the way I think about any kind of skill building, skill development is there's a point where you have to introduce, the topic, a framework. Then there's the reinforcement that you'll do. So we'll get into that, and that's obviously where AI comes into play. And then the retention, how do you kind of assess, are people, is their confidence increasing? So from a kickoff perspective, we introduced a framework, super simple, 5 steps. Start with a punchline to kind of break that, almost like a pattern interrupt, kind of get their attention. And then going into the context and the journey, kind of the pre-disco, challenges they had, how we address those, the benefits, results, and then the question, always a call to action. In our scenarios, what we were really focusing on is, as I mentioned, kind of being more effective in our discovery, ultimately getting to the next step from a demo perspective. And so we introduced that. We did some breakout rooms. We had folks work in small teams, which is always great. And, kind of tried it on. We got
Yeah.
some feedback. Some of the feedback was like the punchline piece was just not quite right, their style. We had everyone from our CEO, our CRO, all our VPs, everyone involved, marketing, customer success. And it's interesting, people now in kind of all hands meetings will say, okay, we're working on storytelling as a go-to-market team, and I'm going to lead with the punchline. So it's starting to come into our, kind of everyday language and gives us a common language. That's what the framework has done. But people kind of struggled with that punchline. And then the open ending piece was also like, how do I make this really my style and how I would naturally normally say this? So we kind of said, okay, let's take the bookends of that, set those aside for a moment, and let's really focus on the middle, kind of the core components. And that's what we did in kind of the reinforcement next step was using the AI coach.
No, that's great. That's great, Amy. So the framework, let's just for folks that aren't as familiar with it, is really about leading with the punchline and then kind of really closing with a question are the bookends here, and just think about Amy's reason for storytelling in the context of a sales process. It's all about breaking the pattern. I love that, Amy. And then it's about kind of pausing the discovery to avoid discovery fatigue, and then really using the story to kind of qualify and then re-engage in a conversation. So that's why the storytelling framework has that. And the lead with a punchline is like the impact. like the so what,
Yeah.
the how are you going to grab people? Oh, if you're on a Zoom call, you're in a meeting, people may be distracted and like, oh wow, I want that 100% increase in whatever, right? And then in the middle is where you're telling the story, right? You share the context, you talk about the journey, and then you go deeper on the benefits. And so for those that are listening for the replay, if you look down below, there'll be a link to the storytelling framework, and everyone listening right now will make sure that you also get kind of the detail of this so you can implement it with your teams. But you implemented it, right? And you customized it for DISQO, and you rolled it out, and you introduced it, and folks were practicing, and then you did some of the reinforcement. So you want to talk about the reinforcement, how that worked?
Yeah, yeah, that next step was really getting folks comfortable with the words. So, we had an outline for various industries. We have different segments that we sell into, whether it's media and publishers or direct with brands or agencies direct. And so we were able to kind of customize that component, and then really just nail several stories that we knew were going to really validate the value props and the almost unbelievable results, frankly. So social proof, and then had them use the AI coach, focus on key phrases. We didn't put in any kind of restricted words necessarily because we wanted it to be very natural and conversational. And when you speak, you're not nailing all the words perfectly every time. Otherwise, you do probably sound like an AI agent. So
Right.
we wanted to be just natural and not restrictive. Through the coach, you get a score. And one of the things I learned, kind of in comparing and contrasting the coach and the AI role play, where there is not a score currently, the words matter in the coach, like when you're doing your pitch practice, but the score also really matters. It's the score, the quantitative piece that really prompts and encourages people to practice more. I mean, from maybe our academic days or just that's how you're wired and that's your motivator is to, kind of get the perfect score and continue to increase. Of course, there's always the competitive element too for anyone in sales. But being able to practice again, iterate. I asked folks on average, how many times did you practice? 5, 6 times. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty cool. Rarely do I hear anyone who say, I only did it once. So I think that practice piece is really important because, we don't have much time. In fact, in our sales summit this week, we talked a lot about how do we free up time? How do we use AI to help us free up time? How do we give time back to our sellers, so they can do the important selling activities? And preparation takes time. So what I found is AI, whether it's in this kind of coach component where you're, really getting a score, doing the, focusing on the key phrases, or in a role play, it just helps make it so much more efficient and, gives people time back.
You rolled out the storytelling framework. You customized it for DISQO. You did the virtual, you did the Zooms, and then afterwards you rolled out. Step one was from a reinforcement perspective. You had folks just kind of learn the stories, demonstrate that they could articulate the stories, follow the flow, and then they got scored. And what did you observe, right, during that process? From what did you hear from the reps? What did you observe? What was some of the feedback you heard on that process?
Yeah, it was interesting to see the timing of, we scripted out the stories because we
Yeah.
had an outline. Then we wanted to show, okay, here's how you apply it, how you apply the framework using the outline, and then kind of all the fill in the blank, context of, more of the personalization on who was involved and, the CMO who took a DISQO report on the private plane and like how we're reaching to that, selling to power and again, like demonstrating the selling wide and deep. The stories, even though it was scripted, they still deviated in terms of
Mm.
time. And you could, some people were reading from a script and that's fine. Others, maybe they practiced it, maybe they did the AI, and then the way in which they told the story deviated a little bit. To me, that was good because it means they're starting to internalize it, they're starting to make it their own. And, storytelling is an art. The only science component, I think, is the fact that, there is a framework at least that we're, kind of starting with to build from, but really it's an art. So it was kind of cool to see, even though it's technology, this AI coach, very sciencey, very specific, constructed, people still found a way to kind of make it artful and make it their own.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's how you know they're learning, and that's how you know they're really going to retain it when they make it their own, both from, modifying the words a little bit so it matches their style, and also just their tone and how they tell a story, how they use their hands, how they lean in and where they pause. It's beautiful.
And just like
It's
with any story, it always changes a little bit.
right.
So, we've, like I said, we've got our core stories, and I would expect over time, they're going to get juicier. They're going to get, even more exciting. And, there's always the kind of mixing and matching. That's the art. So, yeah, I feel like we had a good level of reinforcement to the point where then it was time to, take it to that next level and layer it in, right? So the goal of this was to really integrate storytelling into your discovery. And that's what the AI role play enabled us to do. And of course, still have some of the, the objections, the unexpected questions, the wobblers, so.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Everyone, we're going to show you how this looks in a minute, I think, but I don't want to leave the role play because I want everyone to appreciate the progression here, right?
Sure.
You roll out the framework, you have everybody learn it, practice it. They're getting comfortable with it. It's a little uncomfortable, but everyone's feeling really, wow, it's storytelling. It's a thing and it helps me. And they buy it. You basically get buy-in. And then they're doing the coach where they're practicing kind of the storytelling with AI. They're getting feedback, and they're getting feedback from AI. Did you do the managers also giving feedback, or did you just do the AI
We did
feedback?
all. Yeah, we did all.
Right. And so, by the way, that's the beauty here. You can combine AI feedback with human feedback as well. So you have a combination of both, which I think is great best practice, Amy. And then you did use the words you just used, next level, right? Where you then have them do the AI role play, and then you're introducing questions, objections, wobblers. What was that experience like for them?
I've heard a mixed kind of a bag of feedback. The resounding kind of common theme was like, it was weird at first. And when I went, I'm still in the process of watching the role play videos and refining the prompt, which is I know a part of what is sometimes scary or a little kind of causes some hesitation for folks is the whole prompting. I'm not even gonna say prompt engineering because it's not that deep,
Yeah.
but getting people's just to get started, that initial hurdle. And so what we did in one of our weekly Teaming Tuesday calls, we broke into Zoom rooms again, and I had each one kind of just test drive it. That's what I called it, our AI test drive. Click the
Love it.
buttons. Yeah, just get into it. And then you don't have to submit it if you're not ready. But we actually had 3 reps who they were crushing it. They were just going through, and at some point, their body language shifted. And it's like they forgot they were in this AI role play because the agent was asking questions that they didn't expect, which made it very real. So they got into it, and then we were all like, okay, submit. Like this is
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
one. You did fantastic on the pricing objection, answering that question. You did fantastic on the storytelling. Go ahead and submit it. So it was kind of using the opportunity, let's say, of a captive audience in your weekly teaming call and getting people just to do it. Just go for it.
Wow. What I love that. I can first of all, from a change management perspective, I think you've just kind of layered in a lot of really good best practices. And I think so I just hope folks are appreciating them. And why do you think folks were hesitant at first? Like, what is it about AI or AI role playing or anything? Like, I'm just curious what your take is.
I think because it's new and the interaction component is really very new. From a company perspective, we are all highly encouraged to embrace AI, whether it's from a product development perspective or just from a general efficiency and how do we, this is part of our adapting, leaning into this technology. We all have access to, the enterprise chat GPT. We have AI office hours where folks share their use cases on how they're using AI, and it can be someone who's really just getting started, coming with a lot of questions. I shared this example on how we're using it for skills development in sales, and all the engineering folks and product folks, it helped them kind of understand sales a little bit better, I would say, because it's through their lens that they're most comfortable with, from an AI perspective. So I think there's the newness piece. I think there's the, how am I going to do? How am I going to perform? Even though it's, it's just an AI agent.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot just going on in general, timing for us, most companies, I'm guessing like it's, it's in a quarter, and continuing this skills practice, not from just a one and done. It was something we did at an event, but really something that we know we need to integrate into, and I use that word intentionally, integrate into our discovery process. It takes time. It takes time. So there's the, also maybe realization, like it's not something you just flip a switch and now I can tell a story, and so maybe there's just some of that, like a little fatigue even, I would say. But now
storytelling isn't easy. Storytelling is not easy. You add in the AI role playing on top of it, even though you've guided them, right? We did it at the kickoff, and you did the AI coach, and they practiced like at least 5 times each, and then boom, now you're in a role play. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's very different. Very different. But I did have one rep just tell me, I love the idea of it, and it did make a difference. And one of the things I did post kickoff was a survey, like you do. And it was, post survey for kickoff. And then we also did one just before this summit to see, how are people feeling from a confidence perspective? Just rate your confidence. I used ChatGPT to come up with kind of some statements and said, pick 1 through 5, which one most relates to how you feel in terms of your confidence in storytelling, in discovery, and tried to give as much, context as possible. And over 50% said, I feel like expert, I feel really, high confidence. And then moderate, kind of the lower confidence ranking, those folks, I was going to, create kind of like a little office hours and just bring them together. I didn't even have to, because my goal was, okay, this is a prescriptive thing I can give to them, do the AI role play. They had done it already. By the time I was getting ready to put that on the calendar, they had already done it. So wow. I've got, behaviors, examples I can use to help coach, from, and yeah, it's just going to kind of keep building from there. So it's, you start with a plan, you start of, this is my design, this is how I'm going to do it one way, but then you can easily kind of adapt to what you need to.
Kudos, congratulations, 50% improvement in confidence level of storytelling and it's still early, right? You're gonna see the downstream benefits around sales execution, win rate, sales cycle, all those benefits will happen. But this is a really good leading indicator. So congratulations. Really, really, really awesome. Now, I want to go before we dig in. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I commend the team for leaning in. That getting started is is the hard part. So
no, it's amazing. And I think you've got great executive sponsorship as well from your CRO, Neil, and your CEO. And I think you've got a leadership team and senior sales leaders that are all bought in. So helps to be at the right company with the right leadership team, with the right enablement person, with the right vision, and obviously with the right software to help as well, which is great. Helps you scale as a team of one. So just one more question, and then I want to open up the app because I want people to see it, to see how easy it is to set up, and maybe just talk to us a little bit because you mentioned, kind of the AI role play. You talked about wobblers. You talk to us about how you think about the AI prompt design and setting up the AI. How did you think through that, and what was your process for kind of getting it right?
Well, I think we're still refining it. That's the kind of the beauty of it. It's never perfect. It's never just totally right. Because as you have more folks going through it and you get their feedback, you can iterate on it, which is really important. I think from a learning perspective, just being able to quickly and easily iterate. But we had the scenario in our case, we're focusing, as I mentioned before, on kind of the media publishing sector. We've got brand directs, and then we have agencies, and the way in which they use DISQO as a platform to service their clients, or if you are the brand themselves, is similar, but there are nuances. So I was able to take and kind of reverse engineer from our stories to the personas, and then created some fictitious companies for these different segments. And, you know, the kind of scenario definition was, you know, here's the company, here's what I'm about, here's what I care about, here's what my brand stands for, here's the persona, here's my issues, my challenges, and, you know, my business goals. And so kind of taking that persona, kind of typical persona profile, and then making sure the AI understood what good looked like from a story. And we had two stories that were kind of the correct stories, if you will. And the reps didn't know which stories they were supposed to be telling. They probably could have guessed because, again, we have some core stories. But then we also said, okay, after the user tells the story, ask them why the story, they selected that story. Why was that story relevant to you? You know, talking again to the AI agent.
Yeah.
And that gave them the unexpected question I mentioned before.
Wow, that's great. I think again, congratulations. I think there are not a lot of leaders out there in the sales and marketing world, in enablement, that have leaned in so deeply and with so much specificity around pinpointing a specific skill that maps to a specific sales tactic, you know, in the context of the business. So I'm just so impressed. It's so awesome. It really is. So we'll talk about your lessons learned and kind of what you would do differently later. Should we show them something? Should we dig in and let them, should we? So I love it. So Amy's not seen our internal, so I'm going to share my screen, everyone. And I did just post a link. If anyone is interested in going deeper, we're going to do a quick demo now, show it to you. If anyone wants someone from SalesHood to give you a walkthrough, if anyone wants to try the AI, love to kind of get you going. I know that there are a couple people on my team that are in the chat. If you're at SalesHood and you're on the chat, please say hello and make yourself available to folks as well. So please do that. But so I'm logged into SalesHood. Listen, we use SalesHood at SalesHood, and so I just want folks to appreciate that. You know, we are an AI-driven platform, and we're using SalesHood to activate our content, to personalize our selling. We're using SalesHood to ramp readiness, and here we are. We have new 2025 messaging at SalesHood, and you know, just in terms of best practice, you know, I think I like to follow best practices when it comes to getting our teams aligned on messaging. There's an explainer video. There's a messaging guide, which kind of walks through all of our messaging frameworks. Here's an elevator pitch. I recorded it personally. I'm not going to play my elevator pitch. I've written out, you know, the elevator pitch words here, Amy. So just like you said, you know, like you script it out for folks. And then like our first step here was I want folks to master the words, right, Amy? So you said the same thing. You want folks to master your words with the storytelling. And
Get
so we're
really comfortable with it.
right, get really comfortable with it. So they've watched a couple videos, and now it's your turn. Practice the pitch. We're writing out the pitch here. Here are some resources, and very, very easy, right? So I can, you know, in real time, you know, I can just very quickly record a pitch, and I'm just gonna do it quickly. I want folks to appreciate how this works. So, what is SalesHood? We are an AI-driven revenue enablement platform. We're all about activating content, personalized selling, ramping readiness, and measuring impact. We're the number one in results and the number one in usability. What would happen to your business if you're able to improve your win rates? I kind of just slowed it down a little bit, and but just folks to see, you know, I watched a video and I did a portion of the pitch, and now in real time, AI is giving me feedback. And so Amy, you did this for storytelling, right?
Yes, yeah, we did. And again, the key phrases are really important. And then in the pitch practice itself, we did have some restricted phrases. We did want to, kind of make sure there were some kind of smoothing things out a little bit. But like I said, the score really was what drove folks to continue to practice.
I love it. And so here, listen, guys, I spoke fast. We're on a live webinar. The purpose here is to just show how the AI works in a coaching framework specific around storytelling or pitch practice. And it's very specific. It comes back and lack of, I didn't mention the customer name. I didn't really talk about impact stats. I really wasn't, I started conversation. I had an incomplete pitch, right? So I'm getting dinged here, right? And and I could retake it. I could submit it and get feedback from my manager. I'm going to hit cancel because it was not a good best practice pitch. And Amy, when your team went through it, were they watching each other's pitches? Did you see it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're watching each other's, and it's always nice because then you can kind of beg, borrow, and steal from, oh, I like how so and so said that. I like how, so and so talked, a little bit differently about maybe their particular punchline. Because in the coach practice, we also put the goal of, the goal of the punchline is, the goal of the context
Love it.
is. And that helped make it even stronger, I think, in, kind of the assessment for AI.
And so here's someone on my team, Nate, who scored well, and here's AI giving him feedback. I gave him feedback. His manager gave him feedback, and positive, positive, positive. And if I just go back into, there's one other person who just started at SalesHood, and his name is Casey. And Casey,
Went platform.
Casey practiced it a bunch of times. He's new, but this is amazing, right? This is what I want. This is what we want, Amy, right? We want our people practicing here versus in live calls.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So that's kind of the AI specific to kind of sharing something, sharing a story, sharing a pitch, answering an objection, but it's not conversational.
Right.
And so there's a question in the thing here, did you use in the chat, did you use AI for discovery? And so here is a slightly different way to do this. And so, um, Amy talked about integrating storytelling and discovery. Amy, what we did is I wanted folks to, you're about to start a meeting. This can be a first intro meeting for an AE, or it could be a customer success meeting, or someone new in your account, right? The enablement person we're meeting with is interested to learn more about SalesHood. I've written out the pitch, but I'm reminding people, say the opening line, then full stop and ask a question. And so here's how we have provided instructions for people to practice their role play. What do you think? How did you do it?
Yeah, the beginning, I think, of the context of the conversation was really important. And one of the things we're planning to do, again, it kind of gives you this base to work from, and then again, iterate and really specify for different roles. So for our ADRs, they're going to focus more on objection handling. So that's a different context. Our CS folks, they're, having renewal conversations, they're having, business reviews. That's a different context. And so you can still take the core components, again, thinking about the giving folks time back to do their core selling responsibilities, makes it extremely efficient, but it also keeps things pretty consistent. So if I'm an ADR, this is something I'm going to be working on skill wise. And then, if they decide to continue that career, path towards direct sales, they're going to have such a strong foundation, but it's also going to be consistent and similar. And then from a teaming perspective, having our AEs and CSMs really be more united in the value propositions, but using the story as a vehicle to articulate that as we look to expand is really important. So it's just context with the conversation. Love how y'all did that. I love the, even behavior wise, like full stop and ask a question like. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how people adapt it to their own style too.
No, totally. We'll look at one right now. And after I show you the one role play, because I want you to see kind of how the conversation works, everyone, we'll flip to the administrative view and we'll show you kind of the ease of use here. And I think, right, Amy, like how hard was it to set all this up?
It wasn't hard. Honestly, it was really quick, and I used a lot of Chat GPT also. to make it even more efficient.
Yeah.
You know, kind of taking the stories and reverse engineering and, you know, here's the story, you know, what were the common, because I was blending two stories. So what were the common challenges? What were the common goals? You know,
Yeah.
tell it to me in a bullet pointed format. So, you know, it just really made it very specific. I think one of the things that, you know, not to jump too far ahead, but just on the kind of topic of the prompting, now as I hear the role play back, there's probably some smoothing out. Maybe I'm using too much of like really specific industry terms. And I need to maybe, you know, I can listen to our call recordings and take some of those transcripts and then blend it together. So that's what I'm always thinking next. So that's what I plan on doing kind of this next iteration.
I love it. Okay. Let's this is great. So let's go look at one of mine. So let's look at Nate's. And so you know, here's Nate's, you know, I think here's Nate's feedback that he got from the AI, and you can see we're doing feedback based on the questions, how he answered questions and how he overcame some objections, which is great. So we'll go through that in a minute. I can provide feedback on this, and listen, like you can see here what we're doing, right? Like, you know, like the instructions are well, you'll see in a minute. Let's play it.
I've used those systems before, and I'd like to
Let me go to the
understand
beginning. I was watching it earlier, so I'm going to go to the very
to
beginning.
meet you.
Can you
Please
hear
tell me
me?
a bit about SalesHood. I don't have a lot of experience with your company.
Hey, John. Great to meet you as well. Yeah, my name is Nate, and I work at SalesHood. As you said, just a quick intro to SalesHood. We're an AI-driven sales enablement platform with proven outcomes to deliver repeatable revenue to our customers.
Thanks for the introduction, Nate. I'm curious, how does SalesHood differentiate itself from platforms like Seismic or HighSpot? I've used those systems before, and I'd like to understand what sets you apart.
Yeah, those are legacy systems. They've been content managers for a very long time. We're very different, not only in our approach using AI to activate content to ramp readiness and personalize selling, but also we're rated #1 in results and usability. So we're easy to use, we're fast to deploy.
So I'm not going to play it all out. I think folks appreciate kind of the interaction and between kind of like, so this is us, Amy, breaking the pitch up into small little pieces, right? What'd you think of that?
Yeah, really, really cool. I think the pauses, you know, are probably more natural than people realize. But I think because they're like, oh, this is an AI agent, you know, how is it working? What's it doing? It kind of, you know, I'm just kind of reflecting back on some of what folks have shared, threw people off a little bit, but honestly, pauses are natural.
Mm.
So
It is. And listen, the AI is getting better. I do want to call something out, everyone. I think you'll notice that when I
And
go,
we have proven
like he's speaking, and let's just kind of go to
And speed of deployment.
so we made the decision for right now in our business, based on feedback from many salespeople, many enablement pros around the world. We made the decision to not focus in on getting the AI avatar right now because it's a little distracting, frankly, is what we heard. And so we wanted to create a natural conversation. We wanted to make it real easy to set them up, to duplicate them, to replicate them across roles, to make it be integrated with your plays and your onboarding and everything. And so the way we're doing it now is we're assuming you're role playing a Zoom with video off, or you're doing a phone conversation. And we'll get the AI avatar in the next few months, I'd call it. But I think, like, you know, Amy, you know what it's like when you watch a television show and for whatever reason, like the lips is not syncing with the sound. You're sitting there like, oh, you can't watch the show anymore. It's the same thing. What do you think of that decision, Amy?
yeah, I think that's smart. It makes me think of Money Heist, one of my favorite shows, and I just had to get over it. And all I did was look at their eyes instead of, you know, their mouth. So,
Oh, that's right.
but to me, what that decision also enables a learner to do is really focus on the words and not, you know, the appearance or the, you know, body language is important, but that's not what we're focusing on. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
No, I appreciate the feedback. To close out on Nate here, So Nate, you did a good, commendable job in the role play. You were clear and concise in your responses, and you provided relevant examples to support your point. So you did overall, you did a good job. Professional tone, handled objections well, and then you did well in differentiating SalesHood from these other companies. However, you could have asked a follow-on question to understand the prospect's experience with those platforms. For example, can you share what specific challenges you face with those companies? And so it's pretty good feedback, right? And it's guiding you. And Amy, what we've heard, and curious to see what happened at DISQO. I'm going to stop sharing because we're going to get back to the conversation. I hope everyone appreciated the demo. Oh no, we have to show how to set it up first. But we'll go there. I'm curious, what did your manager say about the feedback that was coming through the feeds and that was coming through AI? What did they say about
Thank you.
it?
Because again, timing, and we have, we're going very quickly. So we've got our rep to manager ratio is not where it needs to be. And obviously, our leaders are focusing on business, especially, all the operational stuff that comes along this time of the year. So literally, thank you. It's been great to know that, there's still feedback. It's visible to everyone. You can kind of see, our newer folks, how are they starting to kind of lean in and adapt the messaging? And honestly, there's still a lot of, what do we need to refine?
Yeah.
There's always the evolution, like you've got messaging and training cert for this year. You had a messaging and training cert for last year, and maybe halfway through, right? I mean, the product's evolving, so your messaging does as well. And it's a easy way for them to kind of pop in and see how folks are doing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Managers are also like seeing what good looks like, and I think it's helping make our managers better managers. I think just from a reporting perspective, we are doing the roll-up reporting, so now you can kind of see the activity, the completion, the scores. It kind of all rolls up. You've got it by individuals as well, so it's pretty cool. The one thing I wanted to just highlight is the administration of this thing, right? And so when I look, so now listen, obviously a salesperson is not going to have the edit button, and so I'm a super user in our system. But when I look at the role play, just to kind of I want everyone to appreciate the power here that you have in your hands, and how you can take AI to help you really scale all the enablement things. When you set up the role play, first you pick the language, and we're adding about 15 more languages, which is great. So you can actually have that thing be in any one of these languages, which is pretty cool. And then you identify the user persona, right? So SDR, AE, partner, CSM, and then what your company name is, and then you define the persona. So you could CFO, COO, CMO. You pick the various different people, and then this is your context, Amy, right? This is where you define the scenario, and you can make the person you're speaking with be nice, or you can make him be a jerk, and you pick and choose kind of the dial that you want to do here. This is kind of where the real meat is in setting this up, right, Amy?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the demeanor, I think, is
I
the
love
word
that.
used. Yes. And there's the, folks are, averse to change typically. So you can write that in, I'm curious, but I'm cautious. I'm skeptical, but I'm intrigued. And so I think the, adjectives there, you can have a lot of fun with it. You can, paint it into the, short on time, and give the reason why, or, only answer exactly, don't overshare, I think is how I wrote that in. Only answer one question at a time, only answer specifics to the question that they ask. The goal of the user is really to, use open-ended questions, to generally be curious. Like, I mean, you can really be so specific and give you the context for any of the role or the scenario that you're focusing on, and duplicate it, copy paste it,
Yeah.
and then kind of personalize it as you need.
And by the way, we're looking at this in a training, but this can also live on a page. So that way, if once you get comfortable with AI and you've got your internal playbook for it, then you can start showing product marketing, and they can take like their videos, they can take their transcripts, they can take their playbooks, and that can just automatically feed the scenario, and it becomes, something that everyone can do, I think, and it's super exciting. Down here, we added kind of the opening statement, and then this is really cool, right? You can list out the questions and the objections, and then the scenario the content would provide additional feedback, and you've got additional resources down below. But wanted everyone just how did you do with the questions and the objections? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it worked really well. We landed on one question, and that was the I mentioned before of where suddenly people kind of, it felt like, at least by looking at their video and their body language, that they kind of forgot that they were in this AI role play. And it was after they tell a story, ask them, why was that story relevant based on what you had shared? And it was kind of the first, like, oh, I didn't expect that moment, and made it super real. And then the objection, one of the things at the end of Q4 we were really focusing on was shifting, not just answering, here's the cost, here's the price, really having more discovery and use it as an opportunity, and talk more from a value selling perspective. So we put that in as the objection. This sounds great. I'd love to see more, but before I commit, I need to know what this costs, something to that language.
Yeah.
And again, it was a unexpected moment, but it really took the work we were doing in Q4, blending it into discovery, and then now integrating storytelling in. So it was kind of a, 3, 2, 1, kind of all wrapped up into a interactive role play
Beautiful.
that they could do whenever, however many times,
Yeah, that's the power here. You can just kind of keep going, right?
always on.
I think the role playing right now is we're curating, we're organizing, we're guiding. I want just everyone to appreciate the industry is going to a place where every salesperson will have their own AI assistant, and in the role play will look at their calendar, and the role play will say, "Hey, Amy, you have a meeting today. You're meeting a CFO, in this industry. It's been a while since you practiced the pitch. You make sure you have it, and it'll just be, even more. It'll even guide even more. But first step in the world is let's just get our salespeople comfortable with AI. Let's integrate it with our current go-to-market, and let's just start seeing some of the results." And I think this is a step-by-step change management for ourselves, change management for the industry. I hope folks appreciated the demo. And Amy, I'm curious. This has been great. Before we wind down, for you personally, I think what are some of because I love it, right? Because how does this affect me as a professional? How did this help me do my job? What are some of the benefits that you've realized personally?
So giving time back to sellers has been, really top of mind for everyone, but it's also for any of us. So as a team of one, being able to scale has been important. And scale, it would be on any kind of business lingo bingo, right? But really what that means is doing more effectively, faster, and in our case, with more specificity. So getting the, specificity and speed via scale has been really instrumental. And, from a just DISQO, part of DISQO Nation, a newer member, like I mentioned, about 6 months into my journey here, it also gives me an opportunity to connect with others throughout the organization through this AI lens, like I mentioned in our AI office hour. So that's been really awesome. The ability to iterate, I will just underscore that again, because, one of the things, actually I was talking with a colleague last night, that, the challenges getting in and starting to use AI and some of the apprehension there, a lot of there's been a heavy emphasis on prompt engineering, which is really important. But at the same time, you can just get started, and knowing that you can, as you showed in the scenario definition, kind of change it however you need, replace this with that, make it a little bit more unreasonable or more skeptical, to kind of make it more real, has been just really helpful. Doesn't even seem to be the right word to describe it, but that's been so useful. And it gives me time then to be able to do all the other things that I need to do. So yeah,
No, I get it.
it's been fun figuring it out.
It's been fun. We've had fun working with you. I think that's great advice. Amy, thank you so much. Really super, super grateful that you spent the time, shared your insights, and thank you. Everyone, if you're interested in learning more about SalesHood, if you're interested in kind of rolling up your sleeves with us and trying it out, we'd love to partner with you and love to kind of bring you in. So you can request a demo. There's a demo link down below in the replay, or there's in the chat. But listen, there's some questions out there, and let me just answer a few of those questions. And first, we focused right now, like SalesHood's an AI-driven revenue enablement platform. And we focused right now on one of our pillars, which is about ramping readiness. We have AI assistants that also live in the content activation along with the personalized selling. So for example, we have an AI answers where you can ask questions and then AI will give you the answers. It'll show you the source files, and then just like in a ChatGPT like experience, but now you're in a private LLM, it's your content, it's private. You can then ask it for help. Write an email for me so you can, give your salespeople more time back with AI answers. And then we also have a concept called digital sales rooms. And in digital sales rooms, there's an AI assistant that'll write email summaries, call recap summaries, and then marketers have an AI, for content writing as well. So, the broader question was, hey, there are a lot of companies out there doing AI role playing, and how sales are different. And I'll just say, and then Amy, would love to hear your thoughts, but I'll just say, there's two types of companies. There's point solutions that do AI role play, and it's kind of out of context of your overall seller workflow and your overall enablement kind of practice. And then you've got a lot of companies, some of the larger, kind of content management systems. I'll just say them, right? The HighSpot, Seismic, all these companies, they're all great companies, but they're not really purpose built for the enablement process. So the way that ours is easy to use, easy to administer. You can drag and drop it. You can drop it into learning, drop it into content plays. You don't really have that ease of use. And I would just summarize by saying not purpose built for sales enablement. And so, Amy, how would you answer the question if someone said, how is SalesHood different than all the other AI role plays out there? I'm putting you on the spot, but we'd love to hear your answer.
Super flexible.
Super flexible.
Super flexible, very approachable.
I love it. Thank you. Amy, you're amazing. Congratulations to you for just a killer program, fast starting your year off and getting everyone at discoing to storytelling. I'm sure you do that a lot, but kudos. Let's give Amy a big round of applause.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone. If anyone has questions, you know where to reach us. And thanks everyone for joining us today on the Storytelling and AI Role Playing webinar.
Take care. Bye.